opportunity to maybe talk about him a little bit, what happened, as we, remember him today.
So he was on the midnight shift on May 22nd, going into that day. He made a car stop, and of course it's categorized as a routine traffic stop, but there's nothing routine about what police officers do. So he made the traffic stop, he called it out, he called out what kind of car it was, and then the next thing it was him coming over the air in distress. He had been hit in the back. He was shot at several times. He made it back to his cruiser where he was able to call for help. The next officer was there in a matter of seconds. He was already on his way to back him up. But the suspect had fled already. So they were able to get to him, my brother. They were able to transport him to the hospital. And we got the call a little while later. I just remember being sound asleep. And then my sister just busted my door open and saying that Ronnie was shot. We made it to the hospital. We walk in and everybody was there. We were just kind of circling, waiting in the waiting room for a while. And I just remember pacing in a circle, just waiting and hoping that everything was going to be fine. I put on his academy shirt from when he graduated, thinking that when he'd wake up, he'd just see that I was supporting him. And I think it was a little after 4 a.m. the doctor came out, and it was just something out of a movie. I just remember screaming. All I heard was he wasn't gonna make it, and just screaming. It was unlike anything that we've ever experienced. They let us in to see him, and I'll never ever get that out of my head. And then after we had spent some time with him, a bunch of people started filing in and out, and come to find out it was people that he worked with. They were all there. They were all in the waiting room with us. They were coming in and out of the room, saluting him 2 at a time. And I just remember standing at the bed with him and just, it was trying to take everything in. Being with him, and then just seeing these people coming in and out of the room, saluting him, and it's still like an out-of-body experience, It's just something that I'll never ever forget. The Brotherhood of the Fallen has been, again, another amazing facet of our journey and what we've been through. It all started that night. They literally became our family overnight. It's the most amazing part. You'll never get this type of camaraderie or this type of support from any other profession. I remember being at the funeral and the different chapters that had come through to support us and to pay their respects. Every single person that we saw that day, it made a difference. We felt their presence, and it made a huge difference. Feeling that support and knowing that people care and they're gonna remember him and honor him throughout the rest of their careers, and it's a very, very special community to be a part of, and we appreciate the work that they do. He has 3 boys. He did an amazing job raising them. They're doing very well. Of course, they miss their dad. They need their dad. It's almost like a huge light went out. You know, he just had that about him. He lit up the room with his smile and his laugh and just his presence. He was just, and I'm not just saying this because he's my brother, but he was just a really, really good person.
I'm gonna come over and give you a big hug. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I started my career in 2005 with the New York City Police Department, and I thought I knew everything. I was 26 years old, 24, 26, and then it all changed. I was working at the 7-1 precinct, Crown Heights. I got a phone call that said someone from the 7-1's been shot. Everyone's heading to Kings County Hospital. We're all heading there. We're going to do a vigil for the officer, and I kept asking, who is it, and no one knew. And we rushed there and we found out it was a 23-year-old officer, Russell Timoshenko, and he was on life support for 5 days. And myself and my partner and a few others, we did a rotation on who was assigned to Russell while we were hoping he was going to recover and his family was coming in from out of state. So I spent a lot of time bedside, and I got to see what the family went through, what the other officers went through, and the job that I thought I knew everything about, I did not know everything about it. It became very serious, and we sat bedside for 5 days, and then unfortunately 5 days later, July 14th, 2007, Russell was pronounced dead. From there, I saw the actual Brotherhood of support. The funeral service, I think there was probably 30,000 police officers from around the world. And I just remember we were part of the procession and me being on the bus and then just looking out the window and just seeing all the different patches and everything. And it just meant so much to all of us. You know, I came back home to work for the Medford Police Department, and I would use personal days and I would make sure I went to as many funerals as possible because I know what it meant to me when officers were there for us. And that's part of one of the driving forces of why I became involved in this organization. So we started our chapter 2017. We started attending funerals and wakes and services, and then I didn't expect the first local funeral. I didn't want any local funeral, but I didn't expect one to be a close friend of mine and classmate. I remember I was sitting there, we were at the station, I was going to the Red Sox detail, and I saw on the TV that a canine officer down the Cape was shot. Also the canine dog was shot. It didn't look good. Yarmouth Police Sergeant Sean Gannon. And then a few months later, Weymouth Sergeant Michael Chesna was shot and killed. And the days that it gets very difficult and, you know, sometimes it's not going well, I think of Russell Timoshenko, we think of the Gannons, we think of the Tarantinos, we think of the Chesnas, the Shinners, or us even attending, taking 2 days off from work or details is nothing compared to the sacrifice that these officers have made. So when we started, the expectation was to hopefully get 250 Boston police members. As of now, we have 650 sworn Boston police officers. We'll probably continue to grow in the future.
I'm John Norman, Chief of Police for the City of Girard, Ohio Police Department. We have 23 sworn officers, 10 civilian employees. Our population here in the city is around 11,000, so very small, tight-knit community. And on October 21st, 2017, that evening, Officer Leo came out for the 10 to 6 shift and was immediately dispatched to an area of our town for shots fired. When the responding officers arrived, they approached the house. At that time, no shots were heard, and made contact with the individual at the front door. Officer Leo was speaking to the suspect, and while in the course of the interview with the suspect reached in his waistband, drew a handgun, fired one round, striking our officer in the chest, where approximately 20 minutes later he was pronounced dead. That night changed all of our lives here at the Girard Police Department, including mine. We had the services for Officer Leo. Well, at the calling hours, I was introduced to a group of officers, different agencies around the country, New York, Chicago, Boston. They flew out here to Ohio to come support our department, Mr. and Mrs. Leo, and our community. And their support that evening was amazing. I could see in their eyes that they knew what we were going through. They had experienced the same loss that we have. And that connection was so important to us. And right there I had a pretty big smile, and I knew that these were my brothers, and they were going to protect me, and they were going to protect our family here, and they were here to help us get through this. I've been in this profession 38 years. I always knew we were a brotherhood. I knew we were a fraternity, but not to this extent. And I think we all get caught up in our little environments. We don't really understand what's out there and who's out there to help us. And the Brotherhood for the Fallen has far exceeded my expectations of an organization. How they help the family out monetarily and with love and support is amazing. I never look forward to another funeral, but unfortunately there will be more. And if I can make my time and take my days off and go and help support the Brotherhood and the families of the fallen, I won't hesitate to do it. It's an amazing group of men and women, an amazing organization that I don't think they fully know how much they help